Welcome to Session 5 of Star Trek Hope. The name of this episode will be Discarded Faith. And the scene starts with the Hope, just slowly gliding through space. What is most grabs your attention immediately is the very large Cavor-class bird of prey disabled, very close to her, sort of like reaching a hand almost over the vessel. And we will start with the captain's log from Captain Williamson, and not a log from any of the players. Captain's log, stardate 74213.59. For the last day, the Hope has been holding position near the Klingon vessel Tagak. It's unfortunate, but when Lieutenant Isha destroyed the alien spore, it seems to have had the unintended side effect of also killing the entire Klingon crew. The away team was lucky in retrieving Counselor Aaron, and Dr. Tuzon is confident that after a treatment of DNA resequencing that she will be back on her feet soon. I've ordered a senior staff meeting to discuss the next steps with retrieving the last of our cargo from the vessel, and then also what to do next. There is a crippled ship, a dead crew, and lots of evidence implicating this ship in those circumstances. End log. And we move to one of the sick bays in the Hope. There are several. And Lenaris, you've been scheduled to treat Grekken. He's got a few injuries. If you can remember, what happened last time was the Wyler was moving in position to beam you guys over to the bird of prey. Grekken misjudged one of those graviton pulses and really smashed the ship and himself around quite a bit. That was before he beamed you guys into various places incorrectly on the ship. He's got a very long gash on the side of his head, which is next to the other gash on the side of his head, or at least a scar from that gash that he got when he passed out on the Wyler several missions back. But he's kind of grumbling as you've been treating him. It's pretty minor stuff, but he's not very happy.
I don't know if you saw. Oh, maybe he's back.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Very
Nice.
My Discord for some reason is showing up on my taskbar, but it's working, so that's weird. But
so how much did
Discord.
you miss?
I missed very much the entire opening thing. I know that there's a Cavort class, but that's about it.
Okay, well, you didn't miss too much. Basically, you're in sickbay here treating Grekken. He's got some injuries from. You remember he didn't pilot the Wyler so well and slammed right into that graviton pulse, and. You know, as it seems most of your missions end up, Grekken is injured.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you're responsible for treating him. It's pretty minor stuff. But he's not happy. He's kind of sitting there on the bio bed, just grumbling.
I know you're upset, Lieutenant, but just let me treat you so we can get this over with and you can get back to flying. You know, the job you're really good at.
I wish I could do that, but Commander Lovely just assigned me to 2 weeks of latrine duty because I wrecked the Wyler yet again.
No, I can't necessarily say it's not deserved.
Have you ever cleaned up after a Bolian before? That blue gets everywhere.
He just kind of, looks a bit disgusted and then just goes back to work trading him.
I swear, I think we fix that shuttle more than we fly it.
Well, if you wouldn't crash it so often, maybe we wouldn't be doing that.
I am so unappreciated in my time. You're a doctor, right? Aren't you supposed to have some kind of bedside manner? You're supposed to make me feel better, right?
I am making you feel better physically.
I hear Tuzon's in some kind of re-DNA sequencing surgery thing.
Is there a specific reason he's undergoing that process?
He's actually not undergoing it. He's fixing Aaron up, which is how I'm explaining Tuzon not being in today.
Okay, cool.
So for Grecken's injuries, if you could give me a medicine control, the difficulty is going to be a 0. This is trying to get you to build some momentum.
All right.
And you do have focus here. So.
Oh. All right. So that's 2 successes.
Cool. Yeah, this is just mostly taking the wound sealer thing over his head and healing it up, and then just making sure he doesn't have another concussion like he did before when he banged his head. But yeah, he seems to be, apart from an unhappy Tellarite, which there's nothing you can do about that, he does seem to be mostly treated.
Alrighty. Well, in this case, it looks like you're good to go, Lieutenant. I guess you better get started on your new duty as an officer.
Hey, did you hear about what happened on the bridge yesterday?
I heard some murmurs about it, but nothing in great detail. What happened?
Oh, it's all everybody's talking about. I gotta tell you, I was right there in the middle of it. All I know is the captain saying something, and then Isha is getting ready to relieve him of duty, and then the whole thing falls apart. And Lovely, I have never seen her that angry. I didn't think she could get more angry, but she can. I didn't know what to do.
Are you talking about that there was a possible mutiny that was about to happen, Lieutenant?
Well, it kind of seemed like one, yeah. And then, of course, there's Klingons before all that. So, we were all a little shaken, but then, I didn't know what to do. I thought I'd seen everything, but I was kind of shocked.
I'm not surprised that you were, Lieutenant. This might have to be something I discussed with some of the others at some point. You're free to go, unless you want to stay here for a while to avoid your duties for a bit, and I'll kind of wink at him.
Do you have anything you can give me to help with the smell?
Maybe. And he'll just kind of look around, and it's nothing special. It's like the equivalent of like those foam earplugs when you're at a shooting range, but for your nose, and he'll just kind of shove them up in there. There you go.
Oh, okay. Big specialist. I'll get to it. If you never see me again, blame the bullion.
I guess I'll have to do that, Lieutenant.
And Linares, you do have about 10 or 15 minutes until you're supposed to report to the briefing room, which is a little unusual. Normally it's senior staff, but you have been requested by the captain.
Okay, I'll actually go there now. I'll get there early.
Okay. And for our next scene, when I find it, there it is. So we transition to Lieutenant Isha. So Isha, your orders have been, when you are not on duty, you have been ordered to report to your quarters, and you have a guard outside of your quarters, Ensign McGinnis. Ensign McGinnis is one of your security team. He is very young, and by very young, I mean he looks like he probably came to this vessel straight from San Francisco at Starfleet Academy. Super young, but he's been your guard, just watching to make sure you don't leave your quarters. And you have also been called to the briefing room, in say 15 or so minutes. And your door beeps, and it is Nurse Wynn. She's asking to come in.
Real quick, that item we discussed out of game, is that in my quarters or is that elsewhere?
You haven't had a chance to do that. We're actually going to get to that in the future.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. In that case, I'd simply I don't know who's at the door. I just tell them to come in.
And in walks Nurse Wynn. She has a medical bag, and she kind of gives you a look. So, Lieutenant, how are things?
About as well as they could be. What's with the bag?
Uh, some unpleasantness, unfortunately. I strongly disagree, but I'm under orders that while you are at duty, I'm supposed to give you an injection that will inhibit your psychokinesis and bolt of change. You won't suffer any medical side effects apart from discomfort occasionally, but it will make those things a little more difficult for you.
So if I hear correctly, in order to comply with the captain's wishes, I have to take this injection. That about right?
I'm under orders to give it to you, Lieutenant. As a personal favor, I think we just have to get through this. I know you will still be completely capable of performing your duties. This is just, I think, to put the captain at ease.
Well, you can tell the captain that I'm refusing the injection, and if he has a problem with that, he can bring it up with my God. What are they called in character? Because they don't call them lawyers in Star Trek anymore. What do they call them? Advocates? Yeah, you can talk with my advocate. We'll go with that. Because I am not going to submit myself to any injection that involves hampering my powers unless you can prove otherwise, that I am such a danger to this crew.
And she sighs. Aisha, I can go back to the captain and say that, but then I will be in dereliction of my duty for not following orders.
Well, we can just add it to the long list of things that the captain is just, I hate to put it this way, nurse, but, the captain is not a good seat here. The captain is, if he wants to hold you in dereliction of duty because I'm exercising my rights as a Federation citizen, then something is even more wrong with him than I thought.
Lieutenant, what this injection will do is, well, all it will do is make it a little more difficult for you to use those abilities. I've seen your combat reports. That's not going to slow you down in the least.
Unfortunately, nurse, if what I think is happening in the greater galaxy is true, I need my powers almost all the time. We don't know what the hell that thing was on the Klingon ship. It's shown up 2 times. For all we know, it could literally open a hole into our cargo hold and do what it did to the Klingons to the rest of the ship. Of course, I've tried to tell the captain this, and he waved it off as me being paranoid. So you're going to, you've admitted it yourself. You've seen my record. So you know that when I have a little bug like this, when I'm a little bit paranoid, it usually works out like I think it is going to.
I'm not a big fan of Captain Williamson either, Lieutenant. But what do? He's the captain. We're behind enemy lines, essentially.
Well, that I don't really have an answer for. Had he actually stepped down like I wanted him to, I was simply going to take the ship back to Federation space and ask that we get a new captain. I didn't really have a long-term plan. I'll admit it was a little hot-headed, but I don't know. This deep in Klingon space with that, and I point out the window at the floating bird of prey, with that on our doorstep, all it's going to take is an angry Klingon coming in our direction, and we're in even more world of hurt. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, unfortunately.
Why don't you give me a command presence? Let's say difficulty 2 here, and I just check your focuses. None of those would apply.
Okay. We have 2 momentum. Would people mind if I spent 1?
Go right on ahead.
Cool. All right. Rolling below a 10, I believe. I didn't believe hard enough. Only 1 success.
And one of them was an 11, too. That sucks.
Rip.
Yeah. How about this? I'll let you succeed at cost.
Sure.
And the complication will become apparent. So what Wynn does is she looks at you. All right, Isha. Don't tell anybody about this. I trust you. Please don't do anything stupid. And she takes the hypospray and she injects herself. She says, all this is going to do is give me a terrible headache. Not exactly what I need today. I'm sure you can appreciate that, and you can see she's basically doing that so that there is no evidence that she didn't give this injection to someone. And she puts that back in her bag. Okay.
Before she leaves, though, or tries to start leaving, I said, listen, Wynn, I just want to be very clear here. On a personal level, thank you for doing this.
I agree with you, Lieutenant. I do. I don't think Williamson is the right person for this mission, but what are we going to do? And just think about it like this. If I can bore you with an anecdote, on my planet, there are these herbivores, and they're really stupid animals. They travel on their own, and they're killed all the time by these Highland lions that just stalk them, and these herbivores are really stupid. It happens all the time. But occasionally, these herbivores will travel in groups. And you know what happens when they're collectively together? There's such a force that these Highland lions don't have a chance. And in fact, they'll often kill those lions because they're such a group together. They're so powerful. I guess what I'm trying to say is, on our own, we can be picked off easily, but just remember, you have a crew of people here that want to help you, that are your friend and care about you. If you ever need help, you don't have to stand on this on your own.
I take a moment to let that sink in and sort of nod my head, and I say, I think I understand what you mean, nurse, and trust me, I'm taking your words to complete heart. It reminds me of a story of, from Earth, of rather much a very same predatory situation, but that's beside the point. The point you were trying to make is, yes, I do think I have people I can rely on this ship. It's just a matter of doing so that doesn't entirely strand us behind enemy lines without a means of fixing that.
And like you said, she points out the window, we've got bigger, well, as humans say, bigger fish to fry at the moment.
Is that what they say? I always thought it was smaller fish to fry, but
I think it's larger fish, because the larger fish are the ones with wings, and they want to fry them, because otherwise, if you fry the small ones, they stop flying. But I gotta tell you, this stuff is kicking in, and I have a huge headache. But if you don't mind, I could follow you up to. I could walk with you to the turbo lift, because I've got to go back to sickbay, and I think you have a briefing to go to.
Tell you what, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to take Ensign McGannis to the lift. You do whatever you need to do to deal with that. And I motion at the hypospray and where she injected.
And she starts to turn. Oh, and by the way, this Ensign McGannis, are we sure he's old enough to have a phaser?
I mean, I've seen his record. He is in the 80th percentile. So yeah, I think he's qualified.
I just saw him when I came in. He seems really twitchy.
Well, you know, when your boss is literally the one you're guarding, you tend to be a little twitchy.
Yeah, let me tell you about Dr. Lupus one day.
I just sort of laugh and nod and motion at the door for her to lead out first.
And as you all exit into the hallway, you actually almost run directly into Ensign Monty. And Ensign Montgomery, you're also heading the same direction as everyone else to the turbo lift to go to the briefing room.
I just give them all a nod and continue walking.
I sort of just look to my escort and say, well, Ensign, I think protocol is that you follow me wherever I go, so...
Yes, Lieutenant. And Isha, if you could give me... Let's do Security Insight Difficulty 3.
Would any of my focuses apply here?
Yeah.
Okay. Difficulty 3. Would people mind me taking the other momentum?
Go for it.
All right,
cool. Hey, look at that. We get that momentum right back.
Very nice. So what McGinnis is doing is he's walking, and he has his hand actually on his phaser. His phaser's on his belt, but he's kind of resting his hand on it, which is not exactly the safest thing to do. Without knowing too much about how phasers actually operate, I'm just making a lot of assumptions here. But I think, you press the button and the phaser fires. And like, there's a reason real guns have trigger guards. It's so that it's harder to push the trigger. So him resting his hand on the phaser like that is just, it's not what you should do.
Ensign.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Do you know what regulation 55-C is?
Is that the one about not going to the bathroom in 0G?
No, but now I'm curious. I'm going to have to look that up later. No, the point I'm trying to make, 55C, is the one where you're not supposed to rest your hand on a phaser, because guess how we fire a phaser?
Sorry, Lieutenant. I was told by the captain to make sure that nothing happens. And he's kind of moving his hands like he doesn't know really where to put them. He's got that awkward moment where he tries to do like a hand cross and it doesn't work.
Edson, I realize this is your first real assignment outside of the academy. It gets easier. The nerves you're feeling right now, they're just nerves. Nothing bad's going to happen.
Okay. I believe you, Lieutenant. I just I really don't want to screw up. And there's all this talk about mutinies and stuff, and the captain himself gave me this assignment.
Well, that much I can't really speak to until we see what goes on in this meeting. Anyway, looks like the turbolift's here.
And Nurse Wynn, she steps over to you, Montgomery, and she says, Ensign, if you don't mind, I've actually had some thoughts on our tiny patient in your lab.
Proceed.
Well, my race are what we call. She's rubbing her temple. Sorry, this may take me a while to get through this. My race is what is called exclusive telepaths, and what that means is we have telepathic ability, but only inside of our own species. If I were to try to use my telepathy with a betazoid, for instance, it would just be static. And where I'm going with this is my species communicate telepathically for the majority of our childhood. It's only in adolescence do we start to train our children to speak vocally so that they can communicate with other species not of our planet. Where I'm going with this is it occurred to me that the way that we facilitate this vocal communication with our children might be something we could use to help create a dialogue or at least open up communication with our small patient now that he doesn't have a telepathic center and he has no eyes or ears or any sort of vocal cords that we can identify. He's probably not able to communicate in any way, but if we have something that we could put or to interpret his brain signals, then that might be a way to communicate.
Sounds reasonable. Present me a analysis of your findings and ideas, and we will attempt to do a mock-up. I do not wish to have any harm happen.
Yeah, she reaches into her bag and gives you a pad. And she's, not that one. That's something I'm reading. You don't want to read that. And she hands you another one. The thing of interest, and why I wanted to bring it up to you, is that, well, it will take a lot of fast calculations on external stimulants or external data. There's really only one computer system on this ship that can handle that sort of input, and that is your positronic brain.
I agree.
But I think it would work. We could wire your brain up in a way to the interface that we know the bugs work with, and then there should be a way to link you to our universal translator and come together in some sort of way to communicate with it.
Yes, I will serve as a bridge. I would like to incorporate some safety features, though, just in case I do not want to lose control of the body.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I am not an engineer. I'm just trying to take the concept that we use and see if we could repurpose it here in this situation. And it's even very possible that you would be directly wired into this thing's brain, and there might be some things lost in translation.
Understood. I will review your work and then present the findings to the captain.
That sounds good. Well, I don't mean to keep you anymore, I guess. And she starts to step in the turbolift. Up. That's not my turbolift. My turbolift is that way. And she turns to go.
Monty looks at Isha and McGannis. He steps into his turbolift.
Yeah, I'm following him right therein, and I imagine because we were told the turbolifts are cramped, oh boy.
It's very close, and as you guys get into the turbolift, McGinnis he does not have his hand on his phaser. He's crossed his hands behind you, and he is trying to watch you, Isha, without not seeming to be watching you. And into the briefing. I think I have everyone here.
Awkward elevator ride.
So, Linaris, you are here first. Actually, I'm going to hide everybody else to play that scene off if you'd like.
Okay. So he kind of walks. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you walk in, and almost right on your heels is Mr. Capere.
Mr. Capere, is there a specific reason for your being here?
The reason for my presence is I was requested by the captain. And remind me, who are you?
Specialist Linaris Farrell. I'm one of the medical officers on board this ship.
Then I might ask you that same question, because isn't Specialist the lowest rank in Starfleet?
Well, just like you, I was, for some reason, ordered to come here by the captain.
Indeed. I'm sure this has something to do with the disabled Klingon vessel off the bow of the ship. Apparently, discretion is not something the crew of this vessel are capable of.
Well, we'll simply see what we've been called here for soon. And he'll just take a seat and just kind of sit quietly and wait.
I knew a Klingon captain for quite a while, and if I remember correctly, she would not have been very happy if her crew acted in the way that this crew has at least handled things recently, but that's a story for another time.
And he nods, just keeps waiting.
And then coming in together are the captain and Lovely, and they take their seats. Lovely looks, she's always got a look on her face. She just always seems very upset. She seems to have moved into a higher level of anger these days, and that's continuing as she walks in the room. She doesn't really even give you a glance, Linaris, and she sits down. But Williamson, as he walks in, he says, "Hello, Specialist Linaris, is that correct?"
Yes, Captain.
Oh, very good to see you. I hope you're rested from the last time you were on that bird of prey. From what I read of your report at least, it sounds like it was a harrowing experience.
It wasn't necessarily what one would call fun, Captain.
And Mr. Capere, thank you for joining us. I think this will be a simple meeting, and then we can get you back to doing whatever it is you're doing, preparing for the arrival at the colony. We should be there soon, at least in, I believe, last time I looked at the map, in a couple of weeks, we should arrive at the colony. And then Isha and Montgomery, you two are the last. You walk into a full conference room.
Just give the captain a nod.
Idson, Lieutenant.
I don't really say anything, and unless there's some assigned seating, I actually want to take the seat across from Capere.
Lovely looks at you and raises an eyebrow.
I just give sort of a non-committal shrug. And my attention is mostly on Capere. I'm deliberately not looking in the direction of the captain.
And awkwardly standing in the corner is Ensign McGannis. The captain slowly gives all of you a look. He says, "Well, I know we've got most of the cargo back from the Tagak, and in fact, I would like our last away team to retrieve the last of our cargo. And that's where, well, from there, we have to decide really what to do next. So the situation is, we have a dead Klingon crew, we have a disabled Klingon vessel. And all those things point directly back to us.
Well, for
So
the
our
cargo,
choices are... go ahead.
For the cargo, I've been making sure that everything is scanned and checked over. Every container has been opened just because of the substance. We do not want it to have any anchor point for it to get a hold onto the ship. I've even gone through decon a few times myself because I had accrued some of it on my frame. So the remaining containers should be isolated and secured and then inspected thoroughly.
And I've had the other away team that went to the ship after you and follow that same procedure. I think it's very prudent and very cautious, but still a very good idea. They've continued opening the containers, verifying that there are no contaminants, and then beaming them into a decontamination chamber to then examine. We have just the last few containers to go through. No surprises, the Klingons didn't actually remove anything or even open most of them. So we just have this one final batch. Since you've all been on this ship before, there should be no surprises. If we can verify them and get them back, then we will have everything that we lost before.
And as for the incident, our sensor data and the Klingon sensor data should hopefully exonerate any wrongdoing on our end. And it should provide information for the Klingons to show what happened.
You know, Ensign, that makes me think, if we could retrieve the sensor data from the Klingon vessel and have that on hand, that would be very useful.
I can attempt that.
The last away team said that how should I put it, destruction on the bridge of the Bird of Prey, it's been difficult to get the computer system working. Apparently, the Klingon vessels, their main computer is a little more isolated than ours. So you may have your work cut out for you, but if you could get those sensor logs, I think that would be very good for us. And after a moment, Kapare speaks up. Captain, patrols in this area are very likely to happen at any time. We should not stay in this area any longer than we absolutely have to. I recommend a planet in the Bilok system. It's a very unusual planet, but it should be the perfect place for us to hide the Hope until we are sure the Taygok has been recovered and we are not detected.
I don't know if I can do this without like messing with the table. But while they're discussing all this, would it be possible for me to maybe even find a pad and look up the navigational data of the surrounding area?
Yeah, absolutely. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for gravitational anomalies like black holes. I'm looking for random planets. Just something that, let's say we give the Bird of Prey a push in that general direction, that, you know, maybe the anomaly will suck it up, or maybe the planet, it'll make planetfall, and then that's a bigger problem for the Klingons to handle that keeps them away from us.
As far as a gravitational anomaly, if you want to do a sensor scan, which I think you could do from a pad because, you know, TNG style technology, you could do a reason science and then the ship could assist, and that would tell you any sort of anomalies in the area. You could just pull up the navigational logs also just to see what's in the area. Like that. That'll take a much easier check because you're just pulling up logs.
Yeah, let's just pull up logs. I don't want to actually like show that I'm actively doing something with the sensors because of my current status on the ship.
Okay. Why don't you give me a con reason difficulty 0?
1 momentum.
So what you can tell right away is it's funny that Kapare mentioned the Balog system is a great place to hide you guys. It's also would be a good place to hide the Klingon ship as well. It is marked, there is a planet, the 4th planet, and I can give you more if you give me momentum, but the 4th planet is marked as weird, basically, and anything in orbit, it's very difficult to detect.
And how far away are we from it at current warp speeds?
Say at warp 6, which has been your established speed limit while you're inside Klingon territory, it would take you about 11 hours.
I'm going to just bundle all that up and hand the pad to Lovely and just look at her and see if she does or says anything.
She also raises an eyebrow. And she says, Captain, what we could do, and this is suggested by Lieutenant Isha, a very creative solution on her part, is instead of the Hope going to the Balak system, we could hide the Klingon vessel and that system and then continue on our way, thereby removing the evidence of anything that's happened. And Williamson kind of sits there and he looks at the pad. And then he kind of looks at you, Isha. Says, Lieutenant, this is the kind of thing I expect from you. Very good work. Let's put this in our back pocket. I would like to get the sensor data from the ship first, get our cargo on board, and then, you know what? Let's go with your plan. Let's move the ship to that location, the bird of prey, and then we can continue on our voyage.
I still haven't looked at the captain yet. I'm like studying Kapare, and I say, Kapare, what do you know about Klingon cloaking devices?
Quite a bit, actually. I know they are an inferior version of the Romulan cloaking device, which their technology is based on.
Hypothetically, could such a device work on the Hope?
Hypothetically, it could. It's my understanding that the Federation has already begun to adopt their own cloaking devices with the collapse of all of our treaties after and he kind of swallows, collapse of the Romulan Empire. There is no longer a Treaty of Algeron preventing the Federation from developing their own cloaking devices. Conceivably, it would be possible to adapt the technology to this vessel. If you mean, could we retrieve the Klingon cloaking device? That I could not say. It's my opinion that most Klingon technology is vastly inferior. It could prove difficult.
I mean, I figure if two Ferengi on DS9 can do it, I imagine we have capable engineers that should be able to do the same.
I'm sure the engineers on this vessel would be more than adequate.
And again, not looking at the captain, I just sort of look at Lovely and go, eh?
Lovely. She kind of sighs. Lieutenant, you've obviously never met Lieutenant Loggins in engineering.
Is he still playing Danger Zone?
That's the nickname he's given engineering. Actually, Lieutenant, there is my former commanding officer had a process that he liked to say, if it's your good idea, it becomes your plan and it becomes your problem. So if you can retrieve the Klingon cloaking device yourself, I'd like to put you in charge of getting Lieutenant Loggins to get it installed in the Hope.
And it is at this point that I finally look at the captain.
Williamson is just smiling. Well, Lieutenant, are you up for it?
I should be, though it would have been much easier had I not been given that injection. I could have just telekinetically lifted the thing, no problem. But now apparently I've got to work with Loggins. Oh well. Small sacrifices, I suppose.
And Lovely turns to you. What injection, Lieutenant?
Oh, I'm sure you could ask the captain after this meeting, and he would be delighted to tell you about it.
And Williamson says, well, I don't mind saying it here, Commander. I ordered that Lieutenant Isha receive an injection that will suppress some of her more extraordinary abilities to make sure that she does not have any distractions while she completes her duties. And Lovey takes a deep breath. You can see under the table, Isha, because you're on the same side, she has both of her fists balled. She says, Captain, that's highly irregular, not to mention we want to send the lieutenant on an away team on a dangerous vessel. She needs every advantage that she has in order to perform her duties. I would appreciate being consulted in the future, especially since my job is to assign officers to away teams. And the captain says,
Now, Commander, before you bust a blood vessel, I believe that if I take the ensign in the corner there and I put him Aganis, if I take the ensign there, I should be perfectly fine. I can still fire a phaser, and ensign here is a capable shot should the need arise.
Williamson says, yes, absolutely. Well, and also, Lieutenant, we won't be sending you on your own. Montgomery and Linares, if you could accompany the lieutenants. And let's see here. So it looks like Commander Tuzon is still working with Counselor Aaron. He has also put in a report saying it looks like she's going to recover, but he still needs to monitor her. So that puts Commander Lupus as the next open medical officer. Let's see. Okay, if you can meet with Commander Lupus in the transporter room, that will be your away team to secure the rest of the cargo. And then Lieutenant Isha, if you could see about getting this cloaking device, that would be very helpful.
Very good. And I sort of gauge the room. Is this the time where we stand up and leave, or?
It's kind of an awkward silence.
Well, then I make the first move. I say, well, there's orders, Captain, unless you have anything else.
No. Everyone, dismiss. If you need anything, let us know here on the Hope, but otherwise, make best speed to complete your mission and return back.
And yeah, I stand up and grab the ensign on the way out and head to get strapped in and ready for a away mission.
And before we transition to that transporter room scene, Montgomery or Linares, would you either of you do anything before that?
I want to talk with the captain.
Okay, I will move everybody else out. I will move them out when I finally select the right layer.
That's always fun where you put them on the map layer instead of the GM layer.
Yeah, I may have done that.
I've done that a few times myself running D&D. I get it.
It's in Montgomery. Notice you've stayed behind. Is everything okay?
I have some reservations about the plan of hiding the Klingon ship. We have made several communications to Starfleet and to the Klingon Empire about this vessel causing issues with our ship, taking our supplies. If they find this vessel after some time, they will learn that it did not take any cargo. The sensor data will show that we came back within contact with it, even after its horrific tragedy. And then we leave. This will paint a very bad picture for us and may make our mission here much harder to do. I believe it is in our best interest to contact the Klingon Empire and be forthright. The Empire will not tolerate lying because it is dishonorable.
Ensign, I think you're exactly right. And if I may, Ensign, what I've noticed in our short time working together is you have some very valuable opinions, and please feel free to speak up and share those opinions whenever you have them. I know it's easy being one of the most junior officers on the bridge to feel like you have very little to contribute. But in this case, and in fact, all the other cases when you've spoken up, your insight has proven to be very valuable, especially to me. Please continue to do that.
If you do mean that, I have one more thing I wish to state.
Of course.
The crew seemed unsure of you. I respect the chain of command. You are the captain. But the incident with Isha, from what I understand, and from the reports, and how you've acted, you have paused, you have delayed, and you have second-guessed yourself. I do not wish to overstate my liberties here, but I wish to bring up a concern. I am concerned that this might be a difficult assignment for you, this current mission that we're on.
Thank you, Ensign, for your candor. You are right. This is a very difficult assignment. And if I've paused, it's because I understand that every decision we make here could have ramifications for peace for the next 100 years. We have not only a fleet, watching us on the other side of the Federation border. We have unknown parties inside the Klingon space waiting for us to make a mistake. We have to be very careful here. Our mission is a good one, and I believe in it. And I believe the only way we will be successful is if we hold on to those values that make us Starfleet officers. It's unfortunate that much of the crew are uneasy, and I hope I can continue to lead us and maybe find a way to console them through this time. But I will need help from my senior officers like yourself.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
And thank you, Ensign. Take care of yourself over there at that vessel. I know even though the crew is dead, it's still a dangerous place.
Understood. And he'll get up and do the little Picard maneuver of tucking his shirt down a bit, and then he'll walk out.
And Linaris, would you have gone straight to the transporter room?
I would have, yeah.
So Linaris, your Linaris box is one of the last pieces of cargo that you are going to go secure over at the Bird of Prey. Has not actually been brought over yet or inspected. It's an important detail.
I kind of figured.
Okay, so arriving in the transporter room, I think we're going to put Linaris, Isha, and then McGannis at the same time. I think you guys would have all came in together. You notice that Montgomery is waiting behind. But Dr. Lupus, as you enter, he's pacing the transporter room. He's wearing a containment suit, and then he's also carrying a medical bag. And he looks as you enter. I've been waiting a long time. I thought we would get this. And he takes one look at you, Linaris, and he just freezes. Specialist.
Remind me of Lupus's rank one more time.
He's a full commander.
Commander?
Lieutenant Isha, will you be capable of performing your duties on this mission?
I look at the ensign and I just sort of say, now's when you hand me my phaser, ensign.
Yes, Lieutenant. By the captain's orders, your phaser has been hard locked to just the stun setting.
Well, we'll just have to make do.
But I promise, Lieutenant, if there are any problems, I'll be there to back you up.
I hope so, Ensign, because these two, and I point at Linaris and Lupus, they're not really, security types. I mean, no offense, Lupus and Linaris. No offense, but let's just say I've seen your combat records, and the Ensign here is a better shot than both of you.
I'm not surprised in the slightest, Lieutenant.
I'll take that thinly veiled insult, Lieutenant, and put it aside for the moment so that we can complete our mission.
Well, I call it a little bit of bonding, a little bit of friendly riffraff, I believe is the human expression.
It is my understanding that we should still wear environmental suits. The organic material from the spores, as we're calling it, is decaying but is still present. We believe there's a low risk of contamination, but still.
Well, safety first.
Mm-hmm. Now, question, since they are required, we're not having to pay the opportunity cost, right?
No, I'll give them to you.
Just wanted to make sure.
I mean, it's days after Thanksgiving, right? I should be generous.
Just as a reminder for everybody, as long as you are in an environmental suit, your resistance is 1, just so you know. Also, I was going to bring this up. So depending on what new literature you read, the EV suit is actually supposed to confer a difficulty increase for control tasks. I don't know if that is a Strange New World specific or if it's meant to be the full rules, but I kind of haven't asked a Modifius person whether or not that's the case yet.
Cool. I will definitely remember to give you an increase in difficulty, Isha.
You know, I do like to be fair to the GM.
And about this time, Montgomery, I'll say that you've caught up to the rest of the group. And as you walk in, there's a little bit of awkward silence. And then Lupus says, Linaris, I believe this EV suit is your size, if I remember correctly.
Just kind of take it, and the awkward silence continues. He just pulls it on.
Monty just smiles and says fascinating under his breath.
I believe the transporter room has locked onto the coordinates of the last remaining missing cargo containers. So actually it's very near their transporter room. Do we all understand our mission?
Get your stuff and then get the cloaking device. Yep.
Easily understood.
Cloaking device. I was not briefed on that. What are we doing with the cloaking device?
They're bringing aboard. Captain even signed off on it.
Very well. Lieutenant Isha, do you know how to retrieve this cloaking device?
I actually was hoping Mr. Loggins would be joining us. And I just sort of look around the transporter room. He seems to have not gotten the message.
Indeed. Ensign Montgomery, would you be able to retrieve this device?
I can add it to my list of things to do. It'll be one of the last then.
Very well. We could page the lieutenant and give him orders to come, but if it's not on the assignment roster, then we just have to make do with what we have here.
Well, you are the leading member of the away team, sir. It is your discretion.
Very well. Ensign, I'm sure you can get it done. You seem capable. Shall we beam you two to the engineering deck? I believe that's typically where these mechanical things are. Or would you like to join us in the cargo scanning first?
My order of tasks were cargo scanning, data retrieval, and now cloaking technology retrieval.
Data retrieval, also not something entered onto my mission criteria. I don't understand how the command staff expect me to complete this mission successfully when I don't even know what our objectives are.
I suggest then, when we have another staff meeting, that you request to be a part of it.
I will do that, definitely. And I will again file another report with Commander Tuzon about expressing through the chain of command my displeasure, and then also passing through orders to the away team procedure, which has not been followed in the entire time that I've been on this vessel. Entirely unacceptable that I have to find out my mission orders through my junior officers. And he steps on the transporter pad. Well, are you coming? Or did you want to float over to the Klingon vessel?
Just because I'm a cheeky git, I am literally going to float over to the transporter pad.
Monty's not on EVA.
I'll be as far from Lupus as I can on the transporter pad.
And McGinnis steps on the pad and he looks to you. He's like, is this where I should stand?
Little to the left.
Should I stand in the back because I'm an ensign?
No, just little to the left.
Oh, okay.
Not a line. There you go. You're just stand there, ensign.
And he pulls out his phaser and he does like an action pose. Like maybe someone showed him that this is what he's supposed to do, although it looks ridiculous.
Ensign, do not pose when you are transported.
Oh, sorry, sir. I was told to expect combat on transport. That was one of my first training missions. I apologize.
Ensign, the entire crew of that ship is dead, correct?
Oh, I didn't hear about that. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I don't really need to worry about fighting any Klingons then.
No, but if you are attacked by Klingons, we have a bigger problem on our hands. So, keep that phaser handy. but not that handy. Seriously, stop posing.
Yes, sir. He puts the phaser back in his belt. Is that okay?
I just sort of look dryly at the transporter chief, who I'm sure is having a great day.
Transporter Chief Marcus. Yeah, he's just kind of chuckling to himself. I'll say he's a chief petty officer and he's been around long enough to find this sort of behavior funny.
Well, Chief, you going to push the button, or do I need to float over there and do it myself?
No, sir. I think I can handle it. Good luck. And I really mean that. Good luck. And he hits the button. All right, back on the Klingon ship. Let me drop some tokens in. You guys materialize, because I don't feel like being evil and making you do a roll. I'm going to drop you into the transporter room of the Klingon vessel. So as you materialize, the Klingon ship is much like it was when you were here before. It's still very musky. It's still very humid. It seems as maybe when the away teams before you guys had fixed some of the lighting, which was kind of a problem before, it was flickering. And then also with the anomaly having collapsed and you guys having moved the bird of prey away from it, there's no longer any creaking or groaning. There's no stresses on the hull, so it's not in danger of collapsing or anything. But what is eerie is the ship is very silent.
Monty will look to everyone like, well, shall we?
Looking around, that silence would seem to indicate that not only are the engines offline, but so is life support.
Looks like.
So I guess what happens is I turn on my helmet light and my wrist light, and I say, well, Ensign, you know where everything is. Lead the way, I guess. Or, sorry, sir. I look to Lupus. Your call, sir.
Well, I believe the first order priority is the cargo containers, but there's not many there. How about Specialist Linares and I go inspect the cargo? Lieutenant Isha and Ensign Montgomery, you go off and do whatever it is, your special assignments that no one deemed to tell me about. You go do what those are. And then, of course, Ensign McGinnis, just, well, I guess since we heard about how amazing you are, maybe you should guard the Specialist and I.
I just sort of look at Montgomery to see if he has any objections.
Very well. If you will be leading the scanning of the containers, it'll pass them over this tricorder. Like, we'll trade. Mine is equipped with the sensor data for the spores. You will scan each container, verify the content, open up, make sure no spores are inside, and then beam them over. The coordinates are on the tricorder.
I'm sure the Specialist and I can handle that.
You just look to Linares and hand him his tricorder, like, there you go.
I'll take it and I guess hand you my tricorder in return.
Thank you. Very well.
Exchanging tricorders.
Then my next task would be to retrieve the data from the sensors. So, computer core first. And he'll just start walking.
Yep, I'm close behind.
So Isha and Montgomery are sticking together?
Yep.
I don't know where the computer core is on here.
So I'm assuming you guys can see everything on the map. I think I took away the lighting. So I'll just explain what we've got here. So Lupus's description was correct. Some of the organic material is still on the bulkheads of the ship from the spores, although it is slowly decaying, and you can see it's nowhere near as bright and ominous as it was before, but it's still there. Like, you can still see this residue on all the walls. But I'm going to move you guys. You make your way in very easily to turbolift, which would take you down to the back part of the ship where the computer core is housed.
Have we collected samples of the pink stuff, by the way?
Yeah, you guys have.
Okay, good.
Well, another team did. You haven't specifically done that yourself.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
I think we still have some from the first time we encountered them, I think, right?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, I guess we didn't do it to start there, but the laboratories, shall we have them set to analysis so we get an advantage or an extra bonus for that?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the labs. Yeah, I'll say if I'm interpreting what you guys want correctly, if there's anything that has to do with this stuff, you'll get an advantage on it.
All right. And where would the cargo bay be in relation to here?
It is not accurate in any way at all, but I put the cargo containers right there just to save as a map transition.
Fair enough.
I'm taking Isha and Montgomery off. I'm assuming you guys are going in the turbolift heading to where you need to go. And then Lupus, Linares, and crew will maybe head towards the cargo room.
Now I have to ask, since we traded tricorders, did Linares do anything special to his?
It's just a regular tricorder.
Well, is it a medical tricorder? Because that could give us an advantage later.
It would be a medical tricorder, yes.
Sweet, we've got a medical tricorder. That's an advantage right there.
For engineering, yep.
Yeah, medical tricorders are great for engineering tasks.
A heart's just like a pump, after all, right? You know.
Yeah. So Linares, as you walk in, you notice there are several cargo containers in here. I will say your eye immediately moves to this container, which has special importance to you. There's not too many to scan here. Lupus is leading the way, though. He has his tricorder pretty much out already, and McGinnis is stumbling behind, looking very nervous.
Ensign, if you want to handle these containers here, I can easily handle the ones over here myself.
Sure, Doctor. I can scan that. Is the tricorder going to let me know if I find something bad?
You know how to read the results of a tricorder, Ensign?
I do. It wasn't since my basic training that I had to use a medical tricorder, though that's not what I've been trained in. Oh, I forgot. Actually, you're specialist. I'm an ensign. You call me sir. But I haven't. It's not something I've practiced on. I'm not too familiar with a medical tricorder.
It'll beep and turn a couple of different colors if you find something bad. Just tell me if you find them.
Lupus says, Ensign, stand over there with your phaser out of the way and protect us, or whatever you're supposed to do. I don't want you to miss something and then some contagion kill the entire ship. And McGinnis says, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want that either.
Here's my question, GM. How long has it been since this incident when we were on here last session?
It's been about a day and a half.
Okay. Since we don't know how good life support has been on here, does it almost, because I'm the only one who knows about this, does it almost kind of smell like death in here?
Well, I think we talked before that there's got to be some kind of life support in the box because it's sealed.
It is very minor life support, but yes, there should be some in there.
You should be concerned about the amount of time that he would have been in this box.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say Lupus doesn't pick up on this concern at all, and he walks over to you. So, Linares, I was thinking about our last exchange, and I was not happy with how it went.
We're here to do a job, Commander. Finish it first, then we can talk later.
Listen, I I tried to be professional, and this ship, I can't even tell you how annoyed I am on this ship. I worked so hard to become chief medical officer, and I did everything that was required of me. And at the last minute, they decided to bring in some untrained, inexperienced, but sorry, I almost said Bajoran, but you know, it just drives me crazy. He doesn't have a tenth of the experience that I have. They brought him in just because, you know, he looks good on paper, and then all of a sudden my job, I've been passed over again.
Oh, I'm sure you could become a much better chief medical officer than him on another ship, should you desire to be so. I've worked with Commander Tuzon for a while, and he's a hell of an officer.
Well, let's just say I might have stacked the deck in my favor this time.
The ensign, like, listening to this conversation, or is he just kind of standing in the corner?
He's standing in the corner. He looks very nervous.
Stacking the deck in your favor, how?
Well, let's just say I didn't want to leave it to the captain to make the decision that I should be chief medical officer. Since he didn't make the right decision last time, I thought I would, you know, maybe arrange things so that I would be on top.
He kind of glances over to the ensign with a look of concern, but just keeps, while he's scanning the 3 boxes in the corner here.
I mean, it's not that McGannis couldn't hear you. It's a small room. It says he's not reacting.
Right. Gotcha.
Now listen, Linares, what that means is if I'm chief medical officer, I have a lot more leeway on medical assignments, promotions, things of that nature.
I'm fine with the position I'm in. Know that you might think of me as more deserving, but
I remember the work that you did.
I don't want... Work is finished. I'm working with Starfleet and the Hope now. Now go do your job.
Of course.
Is he still, like, almost uncomfortably close to me?
Yes, he is.
Did you finish scanning those boxes that were over there?
The boxes. There's no urgency with these boxes. I'm talking about the future of our vessel and of ourselves.
You can talk about that when we're back on our ship.
There are eyes and ears.
He'll mentally tune them out and just start scanning again.
Okay. There are eyes and ears on that ship, though, Linares. I thought you could understand that with what has been going on.
Just ignores him and starts scanning the boxes to verify its contents.
And he kind of sees the cold shoulder and he pulls out his tricorder. Very well, very well. What is this one? He walks over to your container.
Some kind of looks it over. Mine, it has some religious plants that I've actually been working on growing while I've been here on the Hope.
This is strange. Why would you want an atmospheric system built into this container? It's quite sealed.
The plants need a special kind of atmosphere to even grow, so I've had to alter the box so it could replicate the atmosphere that those plants need.
What game are you playing at, Furel? I remember you couldn't tell the difference between Bajoran lettuce and Cardassian lettuce.
While I've been away, whenever I was on Valo 2, I learned a bit more about Bajoran culture and became interested in some of the botanics of some of the Bajoran worlds and decided to do a little bit of work towards making some of them.
Very well. If your garden, I'm sure, was fine. There's obviously much I don't remember or at least know about you, but I'll scan it and we can continue on.
He'll let him do it, but he is basically like glancing over every now and then.
So you're gonna let him scan it?
Yeah.
He scans it, and maybe as you look over while he's doing it, his face is pretty much expressionless, and he's scanning it for a while. And then
something.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'll let you finish what.
After a moment of time, he takes his tricorder and he moves on to the next box.
He doesn't out loud, but in his head he has like a huge like sigh of relief and just he'll walk over to the boxes near Ensign McGinnis and start scanning those.
And McGinnis is actually watching Lupus pretty closely, you've noticed.
I assume you're as concerned about him as I am, Ensign. And this is like hushed whispers.
Specialist, I'm concerned about this whole thing. This place kind of creeps me out.
I can certainly see your concern in that matter, Ensign.
I saw the report on what it did to those Klingons. That's quite terrifying.
I would know. I saw a couple of them. My apologies, Ensign, please.
This mission, I'm still trying to prove myself. I just can't screw this up. So whatever I could do to help Specialist, just let me know, and I'll try to put my anxiety behind me.
Of course, and we're not supposed to be having any combat encounters. You can keep your hand off of your phaser.
Thank you, Specialist. Actually, Naris, if you can give me a security insight, difficulty 2.
Would counseling possibly apply as a focus to determine like how he's feeling, or?
I'll say if you succeed, we can use counseling as your focus here, and if you succeed, I'll give you some information on how that relates to what he's doing here.
Okay, sure thing. Hey, there we go. There's the 2 successes I need.
So the first thing that you were doing this roll for was you noticed that his phaser is set at the maximum setting all the way to the painful setting. And as far as what he's feeling, he's radiating anxiety and nervousness. Like when he said that he's really trying to make a good impression here, he's being completely honest.
Is there a reason your phaser is set to its maximum setting, Ensign?
I've read the reports, Specialist, and particularly Lieutenant Isha's report. She shot these things with some intense power, and it didn't even slow him down. If one of these Klingons is alive, I'm not going to let him hurt you guys.
It's good to see that you're looking out for us, Ensign.
I'm not going to take any chances. If I see a Klingon here, even partially mutated one, Specialist, I'm not going to lose anybody, not on my watch.
It seems like you got the makings of a fine security officer yet, Ensign.
I thank you, sir. Thank you, Specialist.
Kind of like why he just keeps calling me a Specialist, then I'll just go back to scanning, make sure that everything that's supposed to be there is there, make sure there's no signs of possible infection from these spores and just keep going about his work.
So what you've noticed is there really are no contaminants on any of the cargo containers. Some of them had a little bit of the organic material, but it's mostly broken down. It is pretty much inert.
Interesting.
So if you tag these for
on my end,
transport,
it seems like. Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just like responding to what you were saying, just by going like, okay, then just
Any sort of
transport
gunk that's on those containers will be cleaned up when you transport them away.
cool. The containers on your end seem to be clean, Commander.
And he turns. Yes, specialist. These containers are fine.
Slight pause. Am I sensing like hesitance in him saying fine?
Maybe give me. You know what? I'll give you an easy one. I'll give you a good one. So let's do medicine insight difficulty 3.
Okay.
And
You've
your
got 2
deception.
momentum.
Your deception would come into play here.
Yeah, I'll spend one of my momentum for a third die here. Just for focus, task roll 3.
Wow.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, yeah.
So
So that'll be 2 more momentum. There we go.
Oh, he knows something for sure. He called you specialist, which he's been calling you Lenara since you've been on the ship, especially since you were in close quarters. He's now reverted back to calling you specialist.
Kind of give him a look of like, I know that something's up, but he'll just kind of seem to brush it aside and be like, well, we should get these boxes ready for transport then.
Indeed, specialist. I have tagged these ready for transport.
Should probably at least bring some of these over to the transporter pads in the that we came in from. Might make it a little bit easier.
No, specialist. I think they can all be beamed up from where they are. That's the point of the transporter enhancers.
You insist, Commander?
Oh, I do insist, specialist.
He'll just kind of mentally roll his eyes and start sticking some of the transporter enhancers on the boxes.
And then Lupus, he calls to the communicator to let the Hope know that boxes are ready for transport. And he says, okay, hold position until we've heard from the rest of the away team they've completed their mission, and we'll all go back together.
And he'll actually have his combat specialist Lenaris to Lieutenant Nisha. What kind of progress do you seem to be making?
That's a great segue. I'm reusing main engineering just because I'm being lazy. But I'd say around this time, right when you get that communication, Montgomery and Isha, you guys have found your way into the main engineering / computer room.
Well, specialist, we have literally just walked into the main computer room. It's probably going to be another, I look at Montgomery, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes more?
For computer data, maybe. Cloaking technology, hard to say. Do not know how it's integrated into their ship systems.
Give us an hour, and then if we're not back in an hour, send the ensign to come save us.
All right, well, we've got all the cargo seems to be clean and in order, so if you should need some kind of help, feel free to call one of us down.
Roger that. And then I, ended on my end. So, Ensign, not really a computer person myself, but anything I can help you with?
Well, first, let's try to establish some low-level power to the computer core, bring it back online to what we can, and sever connections from the damaged bridge to the core. Hopefully, the rerouting will tell the computer that it can be accessed somewhere else.
Power. Could we spend a momentum to say that we actually brought like a spare power core?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, I just kind of proffer said power core and said, all right, where am I plugging this thing in?
Back of the panel, and he'll just like reach back and lift up a little port, little paneling.
All right. And as I plug it in, I just simply say, so Ensign, what is your read about what's going on the Hope right now?
I think it's fascinating. I believe the term I would use for it is everyone's acting childish to a degree. And he'll just look at Aisha.
It's interesting that you frame it that way. My understanding is that, I mean this with no offense, but most androids, or at least the androids I'm familiar with, they tend to look at things in a childish perspective.
Most. I do have the curiosity that goes with a lot of learning and discovery, but in the sense of how everything is being handled, it is, in my opinion, childish.
Well, I won't overplay my hand here, but let's just say that things are just as planned. And
If
yeah,
I'm reading this,
I plug it in finally, like I finally get the connector in, and maybe power comes to the console at that point.
Power does come onto the console. I'd say half the console powers up. The other half looks like it's been bashed.
Monty will attempt to reroute what he can to the screens that he can see.
And maybe I'll just say it's sort of like in TNG where there's like 4 buttons and they press the same 4 buttons over and over, but somehow these 4 buttons do everything. And as you press it, more on the display changes into the Klingon alphabet. So Montgomery, what are you going for here when you're going through the computer system?
Basically, just try and get the computer core to give us access to the logs. Not trying to go after anything sensitive that would trigger any shutdown measures, because captain's gone, everything like that. So I'm just trying to access stuff that anyone on the ship could have access to, sensor information, stuff like that.
Without a roll, what you can tell is that it looks like the general, like Klingon Becks, lowest ranks, or people that would access this console don't really have permission to do much of anything. Most of it's secure, or sensor logs in particular are secured. It appears as though the Klingon captain, or just maybe on just this ship or in general, they don't trust their lower ranks to have much.
Okay. Then I'm going to brute force my way into the sensor logs and attempt to bypass its security.
So I think to bypass that security, it's probably going to be an engineering daring. I'm going to say the difficulty here is going to be a 5.
Oof. Okay. Ooh.
Now, could I assist with daring security on my end? Because I'm approaching this from a code breaking perspective, whereas he's approaching it from a bypass perspective.
I will allow you to assist Isha with a security daring. However, I will also take that to account if you guys get any complications. That might change things up a little bit.
Okay.
If that makes sense, what I'm going for is Montgomery might be trying to access the system. With your assistance, you're probably leaning more towards hacking the system. And if there's any sort of countermeasures they have in place, those might activate.
Well, I'm going to pop a determination. I understand machines better than people.
That sounds good.
And then if you spend the 2 momentum we have on that 4th die.
Yep, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Ready?
I'm gonna wait for your roll before I do mine.
I don't have a focus, unfortunately, for this, so just trying to see if I have anything else here. Nope. All right.
So even before I assist, we succeed. So let's see what my assist is. All right, so we get a momentum.
Cool. So what you've managed to do is break through the computer system, and you can download their latest logs.
How much access do I have? Did I bypass it all? Or
I think, yeah, that was a high enough difficulty. You've bypassed it all.
I'm gonna make a copy of everything. I'm not downloading it so it's being transferred off. I'm making a copy so that it's all preserved.
If you give me that one momentum, or if you give me one threat, I do have a piece of information that you would find interesting.
I say give him the momentum.
Yeah.
So there are specific orders from the High Chancellor to look out for the Hope. They are aware that the Hope has crossed the border.
Okay. Interesting. Well,
It's pretty vague, but those are the orders, that there is an Olympic class starship that they know the Federation has sent across the border.
All right. Yeah, I'll transfer the copy back to the Hope. And I'll review it when I get back to the ship.
Okay.
And since I have access to the computer, I'm going to tell the computer to disengage cloak, several, safety precautions or lockdown on it, so it can be turned off completely.
Okay. I'll say the cloak is in an alcove right here. Just going off of what we saw in TOS, it's probably a strange silvery thing that's about 4 feet long.
Actually, no, we didn't get to see it in DS9 because it was cloaked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a heavy thing. Monty will look at the computer and then look up to Isha and just point towards the left wall. Like, cloaking device is over there.
All right. Normally I would get it myself, but that injection I mentioned.
He just look up at you and tilt his head slightly. Like, does that prevent you from using tools and your hands for fine motor functions?
No, but I'm definitely not going to be able to move it on my own.
He'll just awkwardly walk towards it while making eye contact with you and then slowly turn his head. And he'll disconnect the cords and all its hookup and then pull it out.
While he's doing that, I would like to make my own copy of the Klingon logs.
Would you be doing this secretly, or would you not care if Montgomery could see it?
If I can do it in such a nonchalant way where I just sort of wave a pad over the interface and the security logs and the Chancellor's notice kind of end up on the pad, great. If I actually have to touch the panel, then I won't bother.
Well, you were just tied in to assist, so I will let you do that easily. Like, just be like you were saying, a pad wave. The only thing I'll have you roll for is to see if Montgomery does not see what you're doing.
Okay.
If you care for him to notice or not notice.
I mean, it's an opportunity to either give you a complication or gain some momentum, so sure, why not?
Am I doing an opposing roll?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do something fun. Let's do a con insight. That's the closest thing I can think of for sneaking. Let's do a con insight opposing roll, and whoever has the most successes wins. If you guys tie, then I'll look at whoever has the best dice closest to 1.
Okay.
Well, I got a 1.
And I was thinking, there's no way they're going to tie. I think a 3 versus a 7. Okay, yep, Montgomery. I think you can respond to this how you will. It looked like Isha probably copied some of that data.
Just look at it for a second and then continue pulling the cloaking device out.
So, Montgomery, why don't you give me an engineering reason, difficulty 1?
Ooh. My talent kicks in, so I get 1 success from the get-go.
I'd say emergency repairs would also apply.
Ooh, I have a focus then. Hey.
This cloaking device is a piece of junk.
Like, it's dead, or it's just a shitty one?
It's just a shitty one.
Alright. Just gonna pick it up and continue walking towards Aisha with it.
It's got the equivalent of like Klingon duct tape wrapped around it.
This cloaking device is rather defunct. Barrel. Still operational to a very sad extent. It is regrettable that the Hope sensors could not penetrate this cloaking technology.
That might actually explain why we saw them sometimes where they thought we didn't.
This may prove difficult for us if we were attempting to use this technology for the Hope. That ship is a lot larger.
Actually, I was thinking that, correct me if I'm wrong, out of character, but isn't the bird of prey we're on larger than the Hope?
Oh yeah, substantially.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the cavort we're on is a size 5, and the Olympic's only a scale 4.
Oh, I thought the Olympic would be bigger because it has like 27 decks, doesn't it?
It's a little weird, but the cavort class is not too much smaller than a galaxy class.
Oh, alright. Don't color me surprised.
It's that weird bird of prey scaling, which always goes crazy, but I think, at least according to the rules, the cavort is at least, like ELH is saying, is at least a scale 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Burrell, which is the smaller 3 one, and then the cavort's the scale 5. It's the difference between the whale one and the ones we always see in TNG. So in character, as you say all this, I say, well, actually, I was thinking that between Loggins and Compare and yourself, we probably could adapt it to the Hope rather easily.
It should be an interesting task. I'll make sure to download schematics of the ship's engineering here to see how all of its power functions direct through the cloaking technology.
This is at this point that I tap my comm badge and I say, this is Lieutenant Isha to Specialist Lunaris.
Specialist Lunaris, go ahead.
We're just finishing up here. We should be back to you as soon as the turbo lift gets here.
Good to hear. We'll see you soon.
And then I just sort of motion for us to head to the nearest turbo lift.
Would you guys want to join up, or you could just beam directly from here back to the Hope?
Oh, I mean, if beaming back separately is an option.
Yeah, I think the Hope can handle it.
Since Monty's not in a suit and he's with Tech and he's still around these little pink things, he's going to beam where all the other cargo containers have gone, which is the quarantine section for decontamination.
Well, I think we all have to go through decon. It's just we don't have to like meet up and then beam at once kind of a thing.
And story-wise, having you guys travel somewhere, unless you want to meet up to actually talk and do a thing, just doesn't serve a purpose. I can have you pulled off of here to, if separately, it's just fine.
I was worried because I got this big piece of tech with me.
I think we're fine. I think separate will work for our purposes here. I mean, unless Lupus is about to drop a truth bomb on Lunaris, in which case, by all means.
Maybe later. But there's the shimmer of the transporter beam as you all reappear back in the transporter room of the Hope. And I will say Chief Data Officer Marcus is kind of laughing as you've all stepped across the transporter pad. Well, it's good to see that everyone made it back.
Now, Marcus, there were no transporter accidents, right? You didn't, like, I don't know, splice a few genes in the process?
Oh yeah, I did some of that. So you might have a some Andoria antennas on your head. If so, oops.
Instantly kind of look over to Lieutenant Isha, just to be sure.
I probably don't, but I just sort of laugh and say, well, Ensign, I guess that's going to be a big problem in your report, huh?
You mean to McGinnis?
Yeah.
Sir, he's got his hand on. He's checking both. I think I have both antennas, sir. Unless you're. Oh, and he checks his crotch. Oh, whew. That's still there.
Ensign, did you? Okay, Ensign, we're going to talk about decorum later when I'm back on duty officially. Seriously,
sorry,
really?
sir. It's just that's transporter accidents happen, and it's it's everyone's worst nightmare.
Oh my God, he's our Jensen. Well, no, he's my Jensen, which makes it worse. All right, Ensign, just go file a report or what? Or no, you have to escort me back to my quarters. Great. All right. Fun. To my quarters. And unless I need to be anywhere else, Isha's back to her quarters.
Actually, Lieutenant, I believe at this point you're supposed to be on Alpha Shift unless you're going somewhere else on the ship, like engineering.
Then, I guess to the bridge.
Yes, sir. I'll be right behind you.
Montgomery's gonna step up to Linares, specialist.
Son, is there something you needed?
A trade, and he'll hand back your tricorder.
And he'll hand his back to him. And out of character, Montgomery has Montgomery approached Linares about giving the Silverblood copy of him some DNA? I can't remember.
I think we asked last session, or after the session, I asked you.
Okay, that's right. So we could probably say that happened in between sessions or something.
So remind me what we were going for here.
Ensign Montgomery wanted to see if Linares would give the that Silverblood sample that he brought with him from that sphere, like a sample of his DNA, whether it be blood or something else, to give to the Silverblood to kind of help its development.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically, whatever Voyager did to give all the Silverblood on the Demon class planet, because they gave them samples and they were able to turn into the person. So I asked for a sample.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's something you guys could easily do. I would point out that I think that probably gets a little fuzzy as far as the Prime Directive goes into play, because you're kind of creating a life form, or at least, I don't know, we could talk about it later, but yeah, you could certainly, and you guys are certainly feel free to do whatever you want, but there is probably, your characters would probably know that it's probably a moral gray area, at least, if you want to start like growing this thing back.
Well, my reasoning is it was trying to communicate. I'm trying to help it to communicate.
Yeah, cool.
I think Linares would see that as sound reasoning. So,
okay, yeah, you could easily get DNA from Linares. It's probably even something that might be on file.
Yeah, just like getting a sample from him, making sure it's all fine, and then tossing it to the Silverblood.
Well, Lupus looks before he walks out. He looks at you, Linares, and you, Montgomery, and he says, "Ensign, specialist, I have a report to write." And he walks out.
Montgomery just looks to Linares and is like, "This ship is interesting."
you're telling me I wasn't expecting to see him on this ship.
Specialist, and he'll nod and head on out.
So, Montgomery, do you still have the cloaking device in your hand?
No, if it had any contaminants on it, that would have been sent off to where the containers are at.
I'd say just so we can keep moving, it probably doesn't have any contaminants. Or if it did, those were able to be removed by the transporter. So you probably would have materialized with the funky looking silver thing that's held together by Klingon duct tape.
All right. And yeah, I guess I'll take it to engineering.
Okay. And Linaris, what about you? What would be next for you?
Getting a really weird inkling of the cargo boxes still being decon at this moment.
Yeah, they should be. Even though they would probably have been cleared, I think that's the process that Ensign Montgomery recommended, was that they sit in decontamination for a while.
He's actually, just in case, he's going to head to where everything's being decontaminated.
Okay.
And just for Lupus.
Cool.
And as a point of order, while the ensign and I are headed up to the bridge, I do want to ask him if he noticed anything odd or anything worthy of my attention during his time with the specialist in lupus.
Well, let's maybe resolve that first. Let's see. Get out of here, Montgomery. Yeah, as you're walking maybe towards the turbo lift, McGinnis says, well, honestly, Lieutenant, Dr. Lupus lives up to his reputation.
Meaning?
Well, he's not very pleasant.
That's all you have to say on the matter?
Well, Lieutenant, if I could be honest, I just get the feeling that nobody's given our captain a chance. And it just sounds like Dr. Lupus is just ready to write him off.
In what way?
It just sounds like he's... I'm going to be honest, Lieutenant, this is a little hard to say because I know that you tried to relieve the captain of duty and that puts you directly at odds with the captain. So it's a little difficult to talk to you about this.
Ensign, lesson one of being a security officer, we hear a lot of shit. And the key is in knowing what shit to share. So I'm going to leave it in your discretion what you share with me here.
I think I'd like to make that a security presence, a difficulty of 2, please.
Yeah, I'm just going to roll this straight. Let's see what happens.
I don't think you have a focus.
1 success.
You're right, Lieutenant. I did hear some things, but I don't think I'm really ready to accuse anyone yet.
Well, Ensign, just keep in mind that if you overheard something that would impact the functioning of the ship, be it with the actual ship or its crew, it is your duty as a security officer to resolve that situation as you see fit.
It's a pretty extreme responsibility, isn't it?
You get used to it.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll keep that in mind. I promise I'm going to keep watching.
It's good because the moment you stop watching is when this shit happens.
Yes, sir. I'll try not to let you down.
That's all. And in case you needed logins for engineering, I got you covered, Josh.
Oh, nice. Okay, let's do that. All right, Montgomery. So you make your way to engineering. One moment doing the token dance. Before I turn it over to you, ELH, to describe to as Lieutenant Loggins, I'll say, Montgomery, you've probably been in a few engineering rooms in different ships, and one thing they all have in common is they're pretty well organized, they're pretty well kept. This main engineering room is the total opposite of that. It looks like something like a hurricane blew through here. There are tools everywhere, there are items everywhere. It just looks like an assortment of just chaos. But standing in the center is Lieutenant Loggins.
Well, Monty knows the chain of command. Lieutenant.
And Loggins looks up. And Loggins is fairly, I would say, wiry individual. Maybe about 5'8", maybe 5'10". He's got quite a full beard going on. His hair is short and messy. And for flavor, I'm going to say that he is currently wearing not like Geordie's visor, but some form of vision enhancer. So maybe I don't know what they're actually called, but something from like STO time where it's just something across his eyes. But he looks at you and he says, Ensign, is that a cloaking device?
It is. Your orders
Cool.
are integrated into the ship systems.
Cool. And he kind of looks around. He goes over to a table and like literally with his hand just sweeps like a bunch of tools and equipment off to the side. And he says, put it down here.
And he'll walk over and just drop it with a thud.
Well, I'd say welcome to the danger zone, but I think you can tell that, it's different from the last time you were here.
Yes. There are new piles.
Yes, when you're playing with the boys, I mean, you have to sort of let tools fall where they are.
Yes, sir.
And so I get the sense that you're not really sure how to act around me.
No. I do have an idea. Unfortunately, it violates my ethical subroutines.
Well, for the first time, let me be clear here. I'm pretty sure that anything you say won't hurt my feelings. So please speak candidly.
No, sir.
He just sort of looks at you confused and says, I could make it an order.
I will submit to the court martial.
All right, well, I'm not going to force it. So, wow, this thing's quite beat up, isn't it?
That is an observation that you have made, yes.
I mean, this is literally Klingon duct tape here.
Monty's just looking at all of the messes. Is there anything else you need?
Well, I could use a footloose Klingon bride, but we both know I'm not going to get that these days, so... You're dismissed, Ensign. I can see my presence and the overall danger zone is troubling to you.
Thank you, sir. And he'll just leave quickly.
For the record, I think that's 4 momentum.
Yeah, I was waiting for conviction of the heart.
I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I didn't have a good one.
Take your momentum, you glorious bastard. I didn't think you were going to make it past 2, but you did. You did 4. Good job.
Yeah, Monty's going to page maintenance and clean up for engineering when Loggins is off duty.
It's okay. He just, every time he comes on fresh shift, he just does it again.
That's atrocious.
So as far as the cloaking device, it's going to take Loggins a little bit of time to adapt it. I think it could plug into Federation systems fairly easily, but it's antiquated, it's falling apart. It's not gonna be a plug and play sort of deal.
Well, I figure between, like I said in character earlier, I think between Loggins and Capere, and maybe if Montgomery can be between the three of them, I think they could probably get it running in relative short order. But it's definitely not plug and play.
The token for Loggins is definitely being swapped out. I just saw it. That is so much better.
You should see his environment. His environment is great.
Oh, it's from Archer. Oh no.
Okay, well, Montgomery, if you've headed out, let's maybe jump to the next scene with Linares. So, Linares, as you've made your way to the decontamination room, you notice someone is waiting for you. It is Commander Lupus.
Commander?
So, Specialist, I had a feeling that you would show up here.
I could probably say about the same for you.
So, Specialist, there are many things that I know, and a few things I don't know, but I can say for certainty what I do know is that you are not Linares Furel.
Almost kind of, not necessarily scoffs aloud, but you can definitely see like some kind of like look of disbelief on his face. Hey, how I sound, how I look. I most certainly am Linares Furel. Must have some kind of memory lapse up here, and kind of like points to his head.
Interesting. This is the approach you want to take. And he has a pad. He touches a button. And when he touches the button, the box, which was your box, here, opens. And there is the unconscious form of the human Linares. So if you are Linares Furel, who is that? Sorry, not the human. The Bajoran form, not the silver blood form.
I get what you mean. Yeah. Kind of looks. Wouldn't be able to tell you when that got there.
So let me know why I should not call security and have you arrested immediately.
Simply because I am here to help. That one, pointing to the unconscious Linares, was a terrible man, Lupus. Let's be honest. And his memories and what he knew, I figured I could be of. You can see, like, he's trying to keep up like a confident personage, but it's starting to break a bit. Simply thought I could help with his knowledge rather than hurt people like he did.
Yes. Interesting. Let me tell you, Specialist, how this is going to work. There's a saying in Cardassia, no secret is without worth. And now I am the owner of your secret. So the way this is going to work is I own your secret and now I own you as well. If I tell you to do something from now on, you will do it and you will not ask questions, whatever it is. And if you don't, I will make sure everyone on this ship knows what you are doing and exactly what you are.
Seeing as how I've had to here, I don't see why I should have to follow your orders. I know what you did in what you've done, Commander. Starfleet note about that.
If that's how you want to play it, Specialist, do you think anyone is going to take the word of someone who has copied another person, stowed them away on this vessel, and lied to everyone? Do you think you have any credibility here?
Considering the fact that I've saved more people than you have so far, I think I have plenty of reason.
Well, if that's the way that you want to play it, we can play it that way, Specialist. Of course, when all is said and done, you will also be in a tube in a lab somewhere.
It'll just depend on which one of us gets to the other first.
Interesting. So this is how you want to play it. Very well. Let's say this. I'll give you until 2,300 hours to reconsider. And if I haven't heard anything from you, I'm going directly to the captain. And then your life as you know it will be over.
Did you get my one DM to you?
Nope. I should look at that.
Yeah. And from what you've told me, Commander, I think I have a little bit more leverage than you think. I'd be more than happy to serve possible mutiny directly to the captain himself.
Maybe you should, Specialist. Again, let's see how much credibility. Let's see if the captain is going to trust a commander with a very long and distinguished record over a specialist who he can hardly even name. Do your worst, Specialist, but I promise, if you do, I will do mine.
I'll do my worst to you, sir.
And I think with that, Lupus is going to turn and march out. And before he gets to the door, he says, remember, 2,300 hours. And he walks
2,300 hours.
The 2,300 hours is like 11 o'clock p.m. It's probably, if Alpha Shift is still going on, it's probably like 1 or 2 o'clock p.m. So you'd have like 8 or 9 hours to do something.
Gotcha. This room right now?
It's just you now, and the box is open with your Linaris copy, who is still unconscious.
I'm just going to kind of, part of me is saying space him, but I don't think there's anywhere to space him in here.
Yeah, there's a cargo bay transporter probably.
I'm gonna think about it. I'm not gonna make a decision right now about this, but I'm just stuffing him in the box and closing it.
Get back in the box.
Yeah, basically. It's like I'm shoving a kid into a locker in high school,
So let's maybe transition to the bridge here. So what's happened here is, Montgomery, is you made your way back to the bridge. And here on the bridge, Isha has also returned with McGinnis. And then Grekin is also at a station. Pretty much everyone here is here for Alpha Shift. And Williamson says to you, Isha, so it sounds like the mission was successful, Lieutenant.
It was. We recovered not only their equipment, data, and cloaking device, but covered an interesting tidbit you might find interesting, sir.
Oh, yes. Please do share, Lieutenant.
I send the High Chancellor's message straight to his chair.
Wow. Okay. So the Chancellor knows that we are here. That's interesting. Well, since we haven't been destroyed, that must mean that the High Council, at least, is okay with what is happening. And as he's giving this speech, Montgomery, your console is beeping. And, well, I'll tell you before you can do a roll after this if you want more information, but there are a pair of Negvar-class warships entering the sector.
Okay. Captain, we have 2 Negvar warships approaching.
We do. And out of character, the Negvar class are the big scale 6, the really top of the line Klingon vessels, at least from DS9 era. One of those is far and beyond more than the Hope could ever take, and 2 of those is super overkill.
I think we could take one.
Maybe we'll make them feel sorry enough for us with our spatial torpedoes that one of them will just leave.
There you go. They will feel dishonor and leave. But Williamson says, Ensign, have they set an intercept course?
Would I know that information?
Let's maybe do. You know what? Actually, let's not do a roll. I'd say easily you could tell that they have entered the sector. They are not cloaked, and they do not have you on an intercept course.
Okay. At the moment, no. But that could change. They're not cloaked, so they may know we're here.
And Lovely speaks up. Captain, if they're not cloaked, that means they weren't expecting us. Isha, I'd say you probably know this without a roll, that the Federation, or at least the Starfleet sensors, are pretty superior to the Klingons. I think in like the Cold War-ish like power balance of cloaking devices versus sensors, the Federation probably is not having cloaks, has much more advanced sensors. So it's possible that you guys have picked them up and they haven't actually picked you up yet.
And what would be the leeway time before their level of sensors would pick us up?
Very hard to say.
I don't suppose Loggins has performed a miracle yet.
I think Loggins probably performs many miracles daily, all the time, but at this point he has not performed any miracles with a cloaking device.
Is one of those miracles breathing?
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Okay. What would Isha do in this situation? Isha would say, Captain, if they haven't detected us yet, and since we don't have an operational cloaking device, I suggest that we give the bird of prey out there a push towards a certain system. And based on what I know of Klingon sensors, they shouldn't detect it because it's powered down and otherwise not really giving off any indication, no life signs, no black boxes, etc. It should just be a hunk of junk in space that they'll just overlook, and we can continue on our merry way without any concern.
And Williamson, he listens to you. You can tell he's listening. And then he turns his chair and he looks at you, Montgomery. And then he looks back to you, Isha. He says, you know what, Lieutenant? I think we're going to try a different approach. Commander Lovely, if you can open hailing frequencies with the 2 Negvar, the 2 Klingon vessels, please. And Lovely looks back. Captain, did I hear you correctly? You want me to open hailing frequencies and identify ourselves to the Klingons? Captain says, you know, one of our rising star junior officers here, and he motions to Montgomery, had a great idea that I think is something we should try. I think we're going to identify ourselves, tell the Klingons what happened, show them the sensor logs, and let's expect the best from them first. If we run, then it looks like we'll have something to hide. But if we come up with our hands clean, they'll see the honor and our honesty. And Lovely's kind of fuming, and she steps up out of her chair, and she does the thing that she does often. She's kind of stalking her way around the bridge as the captain is saying this. And Isha, as she passes your station, very subtly, you didn't even really see her do this. This is some really fancy magician type stuff. But as she walks past your station, as she walks away, there's a phaser 2 sitting on your console. And you notice when you look at her belt, she has a phaser 2. She is armed.
And what's probably a surprise to everyone, I'm going to wait for her to pass me, not be looking at me, and then I'm going to shoot Lovely in the back.
Okay. Okay. Give me that roll.
If people are okay with it, I want to spend 3 momentum here.
Go for it.
Sure.
Just so I'm clear, you're going to grabbing the phaser as she's walking by, and you're just going to shoot her.
Yeah, she probably expects me to hold up the captain with it, but I'm shooting her instead.
Okay.
Well, I got the 2 successes I need. Now, to be clear, I'm not checking the setting on the phaser. So if you want to spend threat and or say it was at maximum, that's Isha's problem. Yeah. So she is just going to shoot Lovely. So how many challenge die am I rolling here? And do I apply vicious, piercing?
So what I'm doing is I'm spending some threat. I'm going to tell you before you do a roll here. Okay. I'm spending 1 threat because this is a lethal attack. I'm spending 2 threat to make the complication be that this phaser is set to do vicious 1. And you are rolling your security +3 because it's a RFS 2. I forget. What is the phaser 2?
Yeah,
Is it +3?
If it's a type 2, it's +3.
Yeah, +3.
So
vicious 1, lethal damage.
Well, 10, 8, 9, 10, 11. How much, what is her fitness security?
All right. So what I'm going to describe is Isha, as Commander Lovely walks around past you, you point the phaser at her, you fire, the phaser beam hits Lovely in the back. There is a slight, it might have been a gasp of surprise. Commander Lovely is vaporized.
Yep, saw that coming. And I just look to the captain and I say, Captain, I believe the steps of the true mutiny has begun. And I look at the ensign in the corner. And I say, Ensign, if you heard anything on that away mission that would be relevant to this, now would be the time.